Hello, everybody. This is Debbie Warner with Digital Sparx Marketing, and glad to have everyone. How to improve digital marketing for e-commerce websites is our topic, and we're so glad to have Amy Gebler from Nordstrom here, along with Bob Tripathy of Digital Sparx Marketing. Digital Sparx Marketing is we are a marketing services agency, and we do digital strategy and execution. We act as a digital marketing arm for various companies, and we also offer training. Check out our free resources. We've got ebooks, webinars, lots of blog articles, as well as infographics that you can check out at digitalsparxmarketing.com, and that's Digital Sparx with an X. So Amy has more than 15 years of experience in digital marketing, focusing on user experience with commercial and nonprofit brands, and she's passionate about developing experience strategies that connect businesses to their customers. Amy is the UX writing manager at Nordstrom and collaborates with design teams to create delightful and seamless experiences. She resides in Seattle with her 3 beautiful children, and we're just thrilled to have Amy today. We also have Bob Tripathy. He is the founder and CMO at Digital Sparx Marketing. He has over 18 years of experience helping companies grow and increase revenues and reach customers through digital marketing. He's passionate about what he does, loves to talk about digital marketing. You can give him a call anytime you want to chat and discuss it. He's open to conversations. So let's go ahead and get started. Amy, we're so glad to have you. Thank you for joining us, and we're going to hear a little bit about from you first. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today. I'm excited to talk to you about UX writing and how that works with marketing when you're creating e-commerce or digital experiences. A little bit about myself. Also, how do I get through that? Perfect. So I do live in Seattle with my 3 kids and my dog, and I have been working in UX really all my life. And I say that because I went to graduate school to get a MFA in creative writing, and I realized at that point that what I was doing when I wrote a piece of fiction or a story or an essay was that I was looking at how audiences reacted to it, and then I would change and iterate and optimize based on the audience's reaction. So, so that really is what we do in user experience development and also in marketing as well. So today I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about the ever-changing retail customer, a little bit about UX and content strategy at Nordstrom, and then where marketing and UX meet. So a little bit about Nordstrom. We are an old business. We've been around for more than 100 years, and we have 5 different hubs. If you could keep pushing on keep clicking ahead, we have that little. So we have 5 different subs. We have Nordstrom, the full-line stores. We have Jeffrey, which is an emerging brand. Trunk Club, The Rack, Haute Look, and we have stores in all of the United States and Canada and Puerto Rico. So why that's really important is that we have a lot of different kinds of customers. We have, our best customers who, are usually, our biggest spenders are usually, in Gen X and older millennials, but we also have this growing new group of customers who are used to a quickly changing digital experience. Retail is just evolving constantly, and we really have to think about what it is that, like how people shop. So people shop in a different way than they used to. Sometimes they go to the store, sometimes they shop online and then pick up in store, sometimes they shop online to check out prices and then they come back to pick it up. Sometimes they just pick it up at the curb. And 10 years ago, we would never have believed that people were actually talking about having your packages delivered by drones. So the landscape is completely changed. We just don't know how, we just would never have expected it. So we really need to adapt and change to the way the customer is evolving. So, can you back up a little bit? I think we're going too fast. So a couple interesting numbers for you. This past Cyber Monday was our heaviest online spending day in history. So with a reported spend of almost $8 billion. But brick and mortar sales also rose last year almost 4%, and e-commerce is still obviously growing. So it's not like we can say that e-commerce is the only game in town. Brick and mortar is also growing too. So those are things that we really need to take into account. All right, if you go to the next. So what we do at Nordstrom is we really think about how this landscape is changing and how there are different ways to shop. And so we are really working to bridge this gap between the physical and digital touch points. But in order to do this, we always need to understand our audience and our customers better. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the UX and content strategy approach at Nordstrom. If you go to the next slide. Yeah. So really, UX is comprised of 3 different capabilities. We have a UX research team, and they work with customers and users to understand how they would make their way through a shopping flow and to really help us surface what kind of behaviors and desires they have about purchasing our products. We have our design team, and they work really closely with content strategy to help design and create the experience. And then the content strategists really work closely with design and research to create messaging and language design that will help get users through the experience as easily as possible. All 3 are really, really important to work connected and to collaborate, and we work also very closely with our product managers and our engineers as well. So basically what we do is we really immerse ourselves into the experiences as fully as possible. Okay, so when we do that, the way we connect ourselves so fully is that we connect with our customers really early. We work with them to uncover potential friction points and understand their motivations. And often we do that because we are testing before we even have a prototype available. We'll come up with ideas and we'll run that ahead of our customers in labs and usability tests and get their perspectives very early on. And sometimes we don't even go through and create the app itself. You can see that second image. We will do user flows, and we'll show this to our customer and say, hey, does this resonate with you? We'll take very, very basic and kind of rough prototypes and take them into the store and allow our customers to play around with them. And we'll really take into context how important placement is and environment. So doing this in store is really important as opposed to just in the lab. So all in all, UX is a very flexible process. We learn about our customers, we devise a concept, we design with language and visual patterns, we test it, and then we iterate based on customer reactions. But our collaboration with our partners and stakeholders is really crucial to meeting our customer needs. It's important, as I mentioned before, that we work closely with engineering and product and analytics ahead of time, but we also absolutely need to be working with business and marketing too, and creative. So, so where UX and marketing meet. First, UX writing and why so many names. We hear people talk a lot about UX writing in a lot of different terms. We hear language design. I think I've used a bunch of them today. Microcopy, editing, content strategy. But basically, what we do is create content that helps people do what they need to do, which isn't so unlike what marketing copy does as well. But the difference, the main difference between marketing and UX writing is that generally marketing copy is about creating awareness and attracting customers, and UX writing is about helping someone through a flow. It's more about wayfinding. But where do they meet? We both work to figure out how users feel, think, and behave, and we also we both need to understand how the business is working. And we all have the same goal, which is engagement. So marketers get our customers to our experiences, and UX creates experiences based on our customer needs. But what do these customers want? So remember that, oh, go back. Remember that, that funny customer who's on their app and then comes and picks up in the store, or is waiting for their drone, or whatever it is, and Nordstrom does not have drones yet. We created, based on customer needs, a store called Nordstrom Local. They're mostly in LA right now, and we're about to open some in New York. But what these are pickup stores and service stores. We don't sell anything there, but we understood there was a geographic need from our customers in the LA area that to pick up items in store, and because it was just too hard to buy online and go to a mall and drive there and deal with the traffic and get out of the car, and there was no, it was just impossible. So having these local experiences was something that we listened to our customers about, and we addressed their needs. So, but it's a brand new experience, and how to explain that, the elevator pitch for this Nordstrom Local is difficult. So what we really needed to do is think about what is that emotional draw in both marketing and UX to keep people involved and interested. Generally, organizations look at copy this way. We have the emotional pieces, so we've got these marketing mails, we've got app pushes, home pages, promo tiles, and then when you get to more UX areas, they feel a little bit more functional, and so we've often tried to take a lot of the personality out of them. Transactional emails, confirming that you've gotten your purchase, adding something in the bag, checkout flow. But what we're really finding is that that's not at all what the way customers receive our messages. So if we're really customer advocates, we can't quit emotion once we get to the interface. Marketing emails and app pushes are really, strong emotional pulls. But so are loyalty balance reminders or transactional emails, because we're telling people, hey, you're getting your email, you're getting your package that you ordered. We're adding something to your bag. And then checkout is a stressful time. That's not something that we take lightly. It's not just functional. And so we really have to understand and be with our customers through that experience. So I'm going to give you an example of probably the best emotional UX experience I've ever gone through. So this year I was terrified to do my taxes. And I decided that I was going to save the money and not have my accountant do it, and I was going to do it myself. So I downloaded TurboTax and I started. And my first screen was, tell us about you, we'll recommend the right tax solution. So already, I'm not a tax person, I'm a Word person. I was like, okay, let me see what I can do. And they gave me some offerings, like choices, and I went through and started thinking about them. Okay, so then they said, okay, let's get a picture, let's get an idea of what your financial picture looks like. And I felt like I was going through this slowly enough that I was being able to adapt to it, and I was starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. Okay, I have a job, I donate to charity, and I, well, a few other things that I can't see. I'm still paying off my student loans, okay? So I felt very comfortable, and what I really felt comfortable with the most was this little line at the bottom of underneath the CTA that said, it's okay to pick something. If you're not sure it applies, you can figure it out later. So I really had this like comforted feeling that, okay, I'm going to be able to do this okay. All right, next. And then I got to the form fields, which are super common. This is obviously not mine. But what I really loved about this was they didn't even let me make a mistake. They had this form field where they offered me the instructions on the right side that told me how to create a password so I wouldn't even get an error message, which is really important for someone who is super stressed out about getting through this flow in the first place. Then they asked me how I was feeling. This is UX. They're asking me how I'm feeling about it, and I was like, I'm not so good. But then they had this message that said, you know what, we got this, you're going to be okay. And then by the end, I loved it. I felt accomplished. I felt like I did something that I hadn't been able to do before. And I became kind of a TurboTax fan. I wanted to, I subscribed to the blog. I started thinking about, okay, what can I do going forward to track my donations beforehand? And they really got me involved, and I really bought into TurboTax. So that was an example of how a totally unemotional topic became emotional. So how do we do this? 3 ways, I think, for marketing and UX to work together are the best. This is the best advice that I've experienced so far. 1, remember the user flow. 2, use a shared language with marketing. And 3, remember that functional is emotional too. And also, functional is emotional. I can't stress that enough. So remember the user flow. This really involves understanding where your customer is at the same time, understanding where your customer is at the time of your messaging. So, go back. So all 3 of these examples are on the home page. They're my 3 favorite UX copy examples. So Home Depot's at the top, and this is a little banner at the very top of their homepage, and it says free delivery, over 1 million online items eligible. So this example, which I'm actually not loving because 1, I don't understand what that means. I'm guessing that something that I'm going to buy from Home Depot is going to be eligible for free shipping or delivery, but I have to click away from the page in order to understand that. So I'm not sure that that's what I would want my customers to do. That said, Target offers me the ability to leave that page and click on one of those tiles, but I don't need to because they've given me so much information in such a friendly way that I don't even need to click away from that page. And then my favorite, which is really basic, is Glossier, free shipping over 30. So basic, but I can click out if I'm done with it. Okay. The other thing that it's really important is you need to keep them on their path. This is an intro segment from the Nordy Club app. So if you've just downloaded the app and you've just joined the Nordy Club, you will get this kind of intro to the Nordy Club. It plays once, but it also lets you continue right through in order to understand that it doesn't take you away from anything. You go next, 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 and there you are, you're launched. Okay, use a shared language. This seems really basic, but don't underestimate the importance of it. example on the left is, again, Nordstrom. And so what we are doing is, the Nordy Club is a relatively new program, and we want to be able to create these beacons across the user experience so that users understand that what they're doing right now is taking advantage of one of our benefits. So being able to use the same verbiage, Nordy Club exclusive, and wayfinding helps customers understand that. Without even, oh, can you go back? Without even saying that the example on the right is Starbucks, we know it is because we already know that green is Starbucks and stars are Starbucks, and there's the cup. So being able to create some sort of iconography, we associate stars with Starbucks. And even at the bottom, that target messaging, they are referring to target runs the way that their consumers refer to that. The consumers created that term, not target. Okay. And then finally, functional is emotional. This is a basic service agreement checkbox, right? But they want to know to make sure that you're old enough to take advantage of Tumblr and that you've read and understand the terms of a service. But it's cute that at a certain point, like it's pleasant and delightful that at a certain point, once you turn 30, they're going to say years young. So they're playing with you, they have a personality, and it makes even the service agreement feel kind of fun. And then this is my all-time favorite UX example with marketing emotion, is that this is MailChimp. MailChimp is, you know, an email marketing tool. And everyone knows that stress when you send out mass email and you're wondering if it was okay. MailChimp actually takes that into account, your emotional state, and says, hey, you did it. You're going to be great. High fives. And it feels like you've done something awesome. And they understand where you are emotionally. And finally, confirmation page again. This is Nordstrom, but you add something to your bag, it's on sale, they're going to give you a high five too. Because why not have a little bit of delight when you're doing something functional? So takeaways, be open to mixing writing types. There's no room for your org chart in your product. Your consumers don't care if you're a marketer or a UX writer. They just want to be understood. UX and marketing should collaborate early and often. The best content is a mix-up of marketing and UX content, no boundaries. Establish features based on business goals and customer problems, so understanding that the customer is where we need to be at, not just what our business goals are. Align project timelines to coordinate with both engineering and marketing schedules. So that includes direct and email schedules. And then again, finally, functional is emotional too. All right. And that's what I've got. Thank you so much.
Amy, thank you. That was awesome. Functional is emotional. So if you have any questions, we will have some time at the end, so be sure and think about them so Amy can answer them at the end. But right now, we're going to hear from our very own Bob Tripathy. And thanks again, Amy. That was so awesome to learn how Nordstrom really addresses their customers' UX, content, and SEO. I appreciate it. And here we go, Bob.
All right, so if you can see my screen, again, I'm going to hit this from a different angle than what Amy had, but I think Amy's presentation was great, and you have everything about my bio that Debbie introduced, but we'll send you the slides too so you can look at it at your leisure. But yeah, having worked in both B2B and B2C industries, that has been a common triad, if you will, and that is of UX, which is user experience, and then UI, which is part of the user experience, is one of it. Content is, of course, important, and SEO. So I'm going to hit those three areas especially, and you know how these three teams can work together and align better with other teams in in your organization. As marketers, one of the biggest teams that we collaborate on a day-to-day level is our IT team. So I'm going to show you some tips, some tricks on how to make it work with your IT team and get things done faster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump right into SEO, give you a little tips about SEO and content, and then see how it fits together with what Amy was talking about. So, you know, having been in the industry and especially with SEO since 2001, what I have seen is, you know, it's a classic case of the more they seem to change, the more they stay the same, and nowhere this is more true than SEO. If I go back to 2001, 2000, when I started, there were a few basic elements, and that was link and on-page optimization. And of course, some of the technical setups. So some of the variables in SEO have changed over time, but rest more or less have stayed the same. Part of the reason it has stayed the same is Google has built an underlying algorithm, and now it's this humongous, one of the giants in the world. So what they do is they don't basically, they haven't taken the whole underlying algorithm and just thrown it out and built it something from brand new. What they have done is they have put some incremental changes to the algorithm, and that's why many of you think that SEO keeps changing. But at the end of the day, content, links, the technical side of SEO and the engagement has stayed the same. And as I said, Google engineers, what they call it is an happiness index. If you talk to any one of them, they will say that they have 200 different signals, which basically allows them to know how a specific website or how something is performing. But if you focus on these 4 things, you should be good. Now, if you dive deeper into what is on-page optimization, link building, engagement, and technical side of it, on-page, you're looking strictly at the keyword intent. Now, keyword has gone through a massive change, you know, before, because of machine learning, the AI-driven algorithms, what we see is the focus is a lot on the intent of the keywords rather than the exact keywords. And of course, your basic on-page optimization still works, which is your title tag, your description, your keyword-rich copy, your URLs, things like that. Link building, this is the underlying foundation of Google's algorithm, where it works as a popularity contest. Why Google became Google is the part of the reason was, you know, it is a lot about popularity, which is how many websites are voting for a specific website. And, you know, for example, sites like news sites like CNN, Washington Post, they have like a huge trust authority, and that trust authority builds when more people link to you. Well, that was the case before, where the more people link to you, the higher authority you get. But then, you know, with any good thing, you have a bunch of bad actors, and in this case, those were the link builders who spammed Google. So now the focus is a lot more on quality votes, right? And quality sites linking to you. And engagement is very huge. Engagement, what Amy explained earlier, is your user experience. If the user experience is great, people are going to stick around on your site really longer. And when people stick around on your site longer, what you see is the page time spent on site goes up, your engagement goes up, and that's a good signal for Google. Don't think that they distributed Google Analytics for nothing, right? This is why. But in engagement, there were 2 things which is really critical, and that is your content, which is having great content, topical content, and good amount of videos and things like that. And then finally, in terms of SEO, you look at the technical side of SEO, like your site speed, your server settings, your schemas, your markups, things like that. Again, I'm not going to teach you SEO here, but you know, some of the basic on-page still works. The beauty of SEO is it's very measurable. So if you take a classic e-commerce example, you know, gone are the days where SEOs are looking at rankings and all the traffic, but we are actually looking at measurable. It is like how much revenue is SEO driving. And the reason I'm showing you this slide is because very few SEOs actually take this kind of data that they have and share it with other departments. Now, if you want to work well and create a structure where your IT, your sales, your customer support, your UX team, your creative team, if you all have to work together and align things together, then you have to share your results and then what your forecast is and things like that. Because only when you do that, you're not you know, a trailblazer by yourself, but you basically have a team to support you. And what we have seen is SEO is not something, at least now in this day and age in 2019, where you know it's a black magic or a voodoo or something that stays behind the code. But SEO is part of your development process. SEO best practices guide should be distributed across the team. So for example, when your UX team is developing something, they put that SEO best practices in mind, because at the end of the day, with all the engagement, all the bells and whistles, if we don't convert our customers, then it's not marketing. That's what marketers do, right? We create customers. And one thing that I have seen is not the lack of knowledge. You can have the best practices in the world and everything done, but if you do not have SEO integrated as part of your process in your organization, then you're going to miss it. SEO is very rudimentary, very basic at a fundamental level, but the trick is to do it over and over again for a sustained period of time, just like anything. And that's where most people falter. And what we have seen is if you integrate SEO right at your ideation, right at your product requirement description stage, your creative brief stage, so when your wireframe, your project kicks off, SEO is built into the process. And this is especially true when you're working with a distributed team. And so again, if you don't have this process built in, create an SEO best practices guide and make sure that SEO is part of your process. So that's a little bit about SEO. Now, in terms of content, I'm going to move into the second part of it, and then at the end, I'll show you how it works together. In the content side of it, what we see is right now there is a content race, and everybody wants to create tons of content. But the trick is not to create tons of content. The trick is to make your content very targetable, very targeted to your marketing personas, very specific and measurable. So for everything that you create, you should have a specific goal and a KPI that matches along with it. So it doesn't matter if you're trying to build your brand, you're trying to attract new customers, you're trying to engage your audience, whatever that could be on the social side, your SEO side, your UX side, whatever that is. But if your content is not specific and measurable, then don't create it. I think in this day and age, in 2019 at least, what everyone is looking for is quality content as opposed to quantity of content. Okay, and one of the things that I've seen help all my editorial teams work really well is what I call it an editorial calendar or a content calendar. This is very interesting and very critical to have. So as I said, do not focus. I'm not going to teach you content right now, but just my top level tips is do not create more content. Instead, focus on how you can repurpose your content. Now, repurposing content is essentially doing creating content in one format and then using it in many different formats. So for example, right now we are on a video webinar. Now the same video can be converted into an audio. Somebody can write a blog post out of it, which we will. You can create some Instagram post out of it, you know, if you take pictures and things like that. You can also create some ebooks out of this presentation. So you can, as a content strategist, your goal is not to create hundreds of pieces of content and, you know, be under the constant pressure that I have to create 5 pieces of content this week, next week, and so on. Instead, be strategic with your content. We've done it time and again for different clients where we take one webinar like this one and we repurpose it into a blog post, videos, ebook, thought papers, so on and so forth. And again, the answer is repurposing. If there is anything you want to take away from this, is repurpose your content. Now, we looked at UX that Amy talked about. We looked at SEO. We looked at content. And, you know, you do all these work in an organization, but the real challenge in most companies in the capitalist corporate world we live in is how good are we in breaking down the barriers with IT and with other teams. IT is super critical because whatever as marketers we decide, if the IT team is not on board with you, then none of your vision is gonna get live, right? And that is super critical. So in this segment, I'm gonna be focusing on how you as marketers can break down the barriers with your IT team. Now, the fact of the matter is, sometimes when we talk to our IT counterparts, and you know, I've ran this rabbit at Discover, we were like 10,000 plus employees. Then at Sears, where you know, back in the day, there was like about 150,000 employees. And you know, having worked in-house, what I have seen is you know, the communication gap between marketing and IT is so broad, is so huge, big, that you might find that they're living on a separate continent than where we are, you know. And just for visual purposes, without stereotyping things, I just said, like, you know, it feels sometimes we are in one continent and they're on the other. But when you really break it down, now I'm gonna dive deeper into this, because all your initiatives has to pass through IT. And if they are not on board, you can get, you know, you cannot achieve a lot. You can do the strong arm tactics, but it's not going to work for a long term. So what you have to do is you have to really understand the world where they're coming from on this. And what I've done time and again is really analyze this. What is a marketer's role, right? What is a sales role? A marketer's role is customer experience, everything that we learned earlier about UX, UI, things like that, beautiful copywriting. But what we do is we are very focused on customer experience. As marketers, we are very focused on acquisition, because if we don't convert, then it's not working, because that's what it is. We are very revenue driven. And what we like to do is we like to go to market really fast. So we have all these go to market strategies. Now, IT works exactly the opposite way. For marketers, what we try to do is our thing is, let's test it out. Let's do a pilot, get it out in the market really fast, and see how the customer response was. If the response was not great, then, you know, we wouldn't launch it into a full-blown campaign, right? So we like to experiment. On the other side, IT works exactly the opposite way. They're totally risk averse. They have a very cautious approach. So they do not believe so much in experimenting. And I'm not talking about developers who are basically building some features in a product or in an app. I'm talking about IT, right? They're very enterprise facing, and you know, they are answerable to people inside the organization. So they are focused a lot on how to build the infrastructure so it's solid, it's non-hackable, less downtime. This is how they think. They're very cost-focused, and they think of things in a very strategic development, long-term development, and again, they're risk-averse, okay? Now, when I really started on this path back in 2007, what I really understood out of this is the goals of my leadership, which was the CMO at Discover, was identical to the CIO. So at the end of the day, they both report to the CEO, and their goals are almost identical, which is the CMO and the CIO who heads up the IT function. They both want to build a functional role inside the company. They both want to have a bigger say at the table. They both want a huge buy-in from your C-level executives on whatever the strategic projects are. And both CMOs and CIOs are very focused on improving return on investment on every project they came across. So why is it? Why is it when our goals are identical, what can we do to break down the barriers? And one of a classic research paper that I found and then we started implementing was the team approach that Forrester came up with, and that was which is basically creating transparency between your groups, creating embedded groups, alignment, and management buy-in. Now, I'm talking about IT, but the same team approach works across all different departments, all different functions in your organization, or rather any organization. Transparency is critical. Remember I showed you the SEO chart where how much money your SEO is making. And I mentioned not a lot of SEOs do that. So what I started doing when I built the Center of Excellence was I created a transparency where I shared my forecast, my goals, and how we are doing with the IT team. And I created transparency that this is where we are, this is where we need to head, so we need your help. And that basically created transparency with my IT department, because they understood that I'm not just some crazy high-paid suave marketer who's just pushing them to do things, but basically here are the business reasons and why. The other thing that my group did was we had one of our team members embed as part of the IT team, and that works really well, where you're working closely and being part of that group. And part of that group means attending the weekly meetings, the monthly reviews, whatever that is, and that is part of embedded groups. And it works the other way around too, where you invite your IT counterparts to work in your marketing meetings, sit on your marketing meetings, and basically understand. And because that's how you create alignment and a management buy-in. And you know what I have seen time and again, not just with SEO, even though the example I'm giving you because of the topic is SEO, but is educating it. The more you educate your IT counterparts and other counterparts in your organization, you will see that you both are speaking the same language. And at the end of the day, our job with good communication and education is to be able to get on the same page and speak the same language, more or less. The other thing I see that marketers don't do is we don't share our tools, you know, and this is so much critical when it comes to testing, when it comes to optimization, and when it comes to SEO. We don't share our tools. So one of the things I would suggest is share your tools. The other thing is web maintenance or your app maintenance. It doesn't come naturally to IT. So basically make them understand the importance of having a good website maintenance cadence. In e-commerce, one of the big things we have seen and I've worked with across the board is not just your dynamic URLs and your server-side settings and site speed and things like that, but duplicate content. Now, these are the things that only a marketer, your SEO team would know, but your IT wouldn't know. So your job is basically making this understand, educating your IT team on it. Another example where you can really collaborate, especially when it comes to the world of SEO, is your redirects. Whether be it hard or soft. Domain migration. I remember when when I used to work at Discover, right now if you type in discover.com, back in the day it was discovercard.com, and the company bought discover.com for 10 million or some crazy amount, and we never used it because everyone was afraid to migrate the domain from Discover Card to discover.com. So what we did is we worked with the IT team and across many different businesses to create a domain migration plan. And we had a very step-by-step approach for IT. And it went back to the example I gave you, where IT is very risk averse. They did not want it to take this on their head that what if we move everything. It's not just the marketing side of discover.com, but the millions and millions of card members who log in day in and day out. So of course we did a whole domain migration part, but one of the big pieces of it is how would you migrate the SEO things from it. So we created a step-by-step approach on how to get that done. So these are some of the tasks that I suggest are super critical and more commonplace to work with your team. And of course there are broken links and things like that. So coming down, bringing it together, doesn't matter what team you are in. What you have to do is you have to break down the barriers with the other teams, and educating, investing your time, creating a team approach is super critical. But that's all I have. Thank you. For all. If you like to read more about content marketing, I have co-authored a small book, and it is free to download, and you can see the link. You can either go to my site at digitalsparksmarketing.com, and under free resources you will see this book, or just hit this bit.ly link, and that should do it. But that's